In 1771, the British East India Company was a massive private trading corporation teetering on the edge of bankruptcy in India. They were operating under a flawed dual system. The company owned the Diwani, the legal right to collect revenue in Bengal, but outsourced the actual governance and tax collection to native Mughal officials. Then, a devastating famine struck. It wiped out a massive portion of the population, left the rural economy in ruins, and caused the company's expected tax revenues to completely vanish. Panicked company directors in London sent a drastic mandate: fire the native officials and take direct control of the state's revenues. The order was to stand forth as Diwan. The governor of Bengal, Warren Hastings, was handed an impossible task. The directors demanded a total replacement of the existing system, but they provided exactly zero instructions on how to actually execute it. Hastings found himself in a tight spot. He had to reverse engineer a private trading monopoly into a functioning, sovereign government from scratch. His first hurdle was straightforward. To run a government, you need taxes. But after the famine, the company had no real idea what the land of Bengal was actually worth. Hastings devised a bold solution. He formed a committee of circuit to tour the rural districts and establish a policy of public auctions, leasing the land out to revenue farmers for strict 5-year terms. This document shows the strict rules imposed on revenue farmers, outlining the framework for newly appointed collectors. But treating state governance like a blind auction had a catastrophic flaw. The system encouraged wild overbidding, promising payouts they could never deliver. This data table highlights the stark economic reality of those auctions, comparing the total revenues of Bengal and Bihar between 1768 and 1773. It reveals massive shortfalls between the inflated bids and what the company actually collected. The political backlash was severe. Accusations flew that Hastings was allowing his own close associates, like his personal agent Kanting Babu, to secretly and illegally profit from these inflated land leases. While the auctions caused an economic mess and invited rampant corruption, Hastings had successfully established the permanent structural mechanism to directly tax the population. But you cannot enforce tax collection or maintain civil order without a functioning legal system. The old Mughal courts had completely broken down. They were out of reach for the rural poor and rarely kept proper records. Hastings built a ground-up solution. He split the justice system into 2 distinct branches. The Diwani handled civil matters, and Faujdari handled criminal cases. While native scholars ran the criminal courts, the British maintained ultimate control, possessing overarching oversight of the entire process. They immediately used these courts to pass harsh, punitive laws. Their primary targets were the dacoits, professional gangs of robbers, to forcefully pacify the countryside. This dual-tier court system was a calculated bureaucratic tool, engineered to secure the rural population and protect the company's fragile revenue stream. Hastings realized his final structural change. A unified system simply cannot function if its administrative organs remain geographically scattered. He physically migrated power away from the old Nawab capital of Murshidabad, moving the Exchequer and the Supreme Courts of Appeal directly to the company's own trading hub. The undisputed new center of gravity in India was Calcutta. These data tables show the immediate economic boom that followed. Notice the steady, measurable rise in both the customs house collections and the sheer number of vessels arriving in Calcutta during the early 1770s. To cement this reality, the company's corporate supervisors were officially rebranded with a title that carried true governmental authority: collectors. Despite the fierce controversies, financial blunders, and brutal policies, Hastings executed the director's impossible mandate. He took a group of private merchants and constructed the administrative machine of the British Empire.